This is Talking in Station, Season 2, Episode 14. Today we're going to be talking about a story that hasn't really got much news basically anywhere. And so I think that'll be fun. And to help me do that, of course, I am Artemis Albosa, a member of Pandemic Horror. Joining me today, as always, Ron USMC, a member of Test Alliance Please Ignore.
How you guys doing? And I'm wearing my Caldari shirt. I'm almost running out of Eve clothes. Another 10 or 15, and I'm out.
Then we're going to have to go on repeat. All right, and joining us back again today is Silver Suspiria, a member of Federation
guys.
Uprising.
Yeah, I should get my Galente shirt so we can clash around.
Uh-oh, are we going to have some infighting here on the show?
No faction
Fed
warfare.
Up is still in militia.
Interesting. All right, well, even more interesting is the guest we have on today's show. His name is, and I'm going to struggle to pronounce it all night for various reasons we're not going to go into, but his name is Iniquitious, and he is a member of the Alliance My Other Lab is a Distillery. So say a few bit more words than hey. Tell us about yourself. How'd you start playing Eve, Iniquitous?
Got off of active duty and immediately went to the hardest RPG I could find. Honestly.
Really?
Like you actively you were like, I want to play an RPG or an MMO, and I want it to be the hardest game known to man. That was a conscious thing.
Yes.
Wow, cool. Good choice, man.
That is pretty sick. So did you immediately go into it looking for the PvE, or do you just straight up like PvP is my thing? I wanna wreck some nerds right now.
Started out with industry just because I like having a base income to fund all my PvP type stuff. If I'm rich, I don't care about losing stuff.
But your goal the whole time was to get into PvP?
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
All right, well, you are on the show tonight to talk about some of those PvP exploits and to set the stage, to explain to everybody why you're here on the show today. I want to give everybody a picture of what things look like right now. So right now, the area of space we're going to be concerned with is actually two regions, but we're going to focus on one, which is Scalding Pass. Now, Scalding Pass is in the southeast quadrant of Eve, right? It's down over here, over in the south, just northeast of where Fraternity currently stages, just northeast of Wicked Creek. And for the longest time, it has been sort of a hotbed of a lot of very small, small relative to other null block powers, groups, PvPers, just dudes who, like, as he said, wanted to do the small gang PvP kind of thing. And so we had Fraternity, who have had space down sort of in this southeastern quadrant, but then we also had, for the longest time, Triumvirate, who held space up in the north. We had in the R&M pocket, this is where Iniquitous and his crew used to live, as well as with another group called The Cure, which we'll talk a bit more about later. And then B-Sod, Bright Side of Death, lived mostly in Curse, but they also took sovereignty over here in the southwestern side. And then this sort of central region has always sort of been a hodgepodge that has been contested by multiple groups, some of which were allies and some of which were enemies of Iniquitous. So that is like the state of things now. Is Fraternity has decided that they want Scalding Pass, they want to own it, and they want to use it for rental space. And what they have done is come through and cleaned out Iniquitous and his crew from the R&M pocket. Before that, they focused up here on what used to be the Triumvirate Sov, which then became the Skill Yourself Sov, or pardon me, the Scourge.sov, and then eventually they moved into Skill Yourself and Fraternity took it over. Now it looks like they've set their sights on the sovereignty which belongs to the Right Order, which is another Russian crew. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. That's the state of play now. That's where we're going to. Talk us about how we got here. How did we get to the position where you used to live in Scalding Pass, Iniquitous?
So you want to know, how we took Sov, then?
Yeah, how did you decide that you wanted to take Sov? Just give me a history of your group in general, really.
Well, we knew that Sov was, good money. The ratting sites are ridiculous and all that stuff. So we wanted a little base where we could, make money and fund our next war. which we always do. We're involved in one war or another. Not like the main wars that you see on the big forums and all that stuff, but like the Ebola War. It was the Cure was founded to do that war, actually.
And that war in particular was a war that took place in Great Wildlands, a neighboring NPC nullsec region to Scalding Pass. For the record, I suppose we should all place our biases on the table here. Although I'm a member of Pandemic Horde now, used to be a member of the Capitalist Army, and even still, like, occasionally, if I get the opportunity to fly around with the dudes from the R&M pocket, the old Cure dudes, I've been on a couple of fleets with Iniquitious. So, like, I suppose you could say I'm in his corner, so to speak. And then we also have Ron and Silver Suspiria, who are members of Legacy Coalition, who are currently at war with Fraternity, and Fraternity are the people who kicked Iniquitous out of his space. So if you're in Fraternity, I'm sorry, this show is probably not going to be kind to you. I'm going to try and keep that tone down a bit, but that's the state of play, as it were. Let's get back to the story, though.
Well, but one second. So I not necessarily, because what's interesting is, so you guys were only like 15 people or so, and you took Sov. I think that sort of breaks, what everyone keeps talking about, right? Which is, the small, medium-sized groups can't take and hold Sov. So like, how long did you hold it? And was it just 15 in the beginning? And what was that like?
Just my alliance is 15. The whole coalition we can use, and that's like fleet numbers, max size kind of thing. With the whole coalition, we're pushing 80, 90 in a fleet with the 4 alliances. I think at one point we got to 100, but that's not what we usually were at.
And yeah, but I just think that's such a great thing that 100 people can take Sov, right? Like every time I talk to someone, it's like, oh, 100 people, like you're just gonna get crushed. But so how long did you hold the Sov before? I guess you were just recently kicked out.
R&M we took in, oh god, was it March?
It looks like
Of last
April
year?
of 2018.
April? Yeah. So a little bit over a year then?
Well, I mean, that's nothing to shake a stick at. I mean, you held Sov for a year with 100 people. I think that's kind of goes against, what everyone keeps talking about. So I think that's great.
We also took the 2 eastern constellations in Scalding when Scourge collapsed and held Frat back from taking those systems for, I think it was 3 weeks.
So let's talk about that, because you're doing a lot of PvP in nullsec, very close to your home. What do you do in Eve? Like, what does your day look like, so to speak? Because you are in a very hostile space. You're in nullsec, right? You don't have a super capital umbrella, but you're still trying to make your ISK and get drunk with your friends and doing PvP. What does a day look like for a small gang PvP or Sov holding nullsec alliance?
It's a lot more difficult with the super umbrella thing being what it is in Scalding Pass now. We can't drop caps, so we're in cruisers. Like, there is no other ship type that we can field without getting just completely blobbed with dreads or carriers or whatever. So we have to come up with, interesting tactics to take out the enemy.
Yeah, I feel your pain. Been there. We were there, done that. That's an interesting way to fight, and you wind up acting like rabid dogs a little bit, right? Like, what were some of the ships that you wind up using to try to hold back the Sov attacks?
A lot of Osprey navies. They do great work against small and Tosha ships.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was actually using a lot of like wolves and stuff, assault ships, etc.
Yeah, so basically, you like wind up running around trying to not engage whatever huge stuff they brought and just killing toasters and making the fight like pretty much unbearable for them, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I feel your pain, man. Did that for a long time against other people.
The actual Entosis fight that we actually ended up losing, that ended up making it so we lost the entire pocket, was Black Legion, or they're in Frat now, but Hilo brought 133 Munins into pocket and just put like 15 Munins on every Entosis node, and we just couldn't do anything. So
yeah, but let's go ahead, Art. Well, I think it's really cool that you had to be taken out by like overwhelming force, right? They had to just like pile all of New Eden in there to get you, huh?
Yeah.
I want to go back a minute, and we were briefly, for a time being, talking about the history of the cure. You mentioned the Ebola War, and I got the conversation sidetracked. I want to go back there for a minute and talk about the cure. Because it wasn't just you who sold Sov in this pocket, the R&M pocket of Scalding Pass. It was you and a couple of other alliances. So tell me about the cure. Who else was in there with you? Who were your allies?
The cure was my alliance, the Unthinkables, Gone Berserk, and the Blood Covenant. Those three alliances are entirely European time zone, and my alliance is U.S. time zone.
So how did that play out when you're all trying to hold Sov together?
It actually worked fairly well. Our staging system, R&M, was in U.S. time zone reinforced, which meant that Frat had a real hard time getting to it until they brought in Black Legion, of course. And then Ebola couldn't do anything to it. And same with Skill Yourself. None of them had the time zone to actually do the Entosis node wars.
So you were time zone taking, but not really, because you're actively active in that time zone.
Correct.
Right on.
And then the other systems just kind of, they weren't as important. Like, I don't know. It was interesting.
Interesting. Like, I'm very curious because it never seemed to me in my interactions with the Cure that there was one, how would you call it, like leadership alliance. Like when you think of the Imperium, Goonswarm is the leadership alliance of the Imperium, that coalition. If you think of Legacy, Test is the leadership alliance. If you think of PanFam, it was Pandemic Legion. They've sort of like become MC 3.0, so now it's Northern Coalition, etc., etc., etc. GOTG, Dead Coalition is Darkness. Was there a leadership, quote unquote, group in the Cure?
No, we were all equal partners. The four alliance leaderships were just, we threw in a vote, and if we passed it, then it went through. And we did whatever the majority wanted to do.
I mean, you sort of got to act like that as a small group, right? Like even my alliance, we can pretty much operate as one big core, right? Because if we didn't, we wouldn't have the numbers to really do anything, right? So the smaller group has to be more unified and head in the same direction more than a gigantic group has to, right? Like, Test Alliance and the Goonswarm Coalition. They have so many people, they have SIGs everywhere and they don't affect each other. But if you're a small group and you have different groups doing different things, that kind of hurts, right?
Right. Well, and there was no clear, more powerful alliance in that coalition. We were all roughly 200 people, member count, which meant that we could form roughly, what is it? What's the standard now? Like 20-30% maybe in a fleet at any given time? Something like that.
So, just to sort of recap everything that's happened so far, you're 200 man, quote unquote 200 man, right? There's a bunch of alts and everything in there.
Right.
USTZ Alliance, you're allied with 3 other EUTZ alliances, and you guys end up fighting a war in Great Wildlands and deciding that you want to take Sov for the money. You take Sov in the the northwestern corner of Scalding Pass and hold it for a year throughout the process, you actually end up taking like literally half of Scalding Pass, right? Because Scourge Dot disappears, and you guys scoop up that Sov and hold it for a few weeks while fighting for it constantly. And now eventually things change. Fraternity moves in their supers. They get an actual USTZ contingent. So even though they're a multi-thousand man coalition, they still couldn't fight you in your active time zone. Now they can. They kick you out. That's where we're at?
Correct.
Awesome. So I gotta ask, man, like, what next? Are you the only other region I can think of that was like a similar hotbed for small PvQ groups is Ethereum Reach? Are we thinking like you want to go to Ethereum Reach and throw in with those guys? I know back during the Ebola War, we used to fly with Unspoken Alliance. Do you still have any relationship with them?
No, my one contact actually left and joined a different alliance.
Ooh, unlucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is a key step, right, in a small group's history. You know, we're trying, as FedUp, we're trying to get through that now, right? You had your Sov, you were doing well, you got evicted, but you're a small group, so it hurts, right? You're defeated, you're lost. So what are you thinking? What do you do from here? You know, you got stomped out by a bigger group. There's probably nothing you can do about that. How do you kick up morale? How do you keep yourselves together, and where do you go?
I suspect we've run into the question that he's still wrestling with right now, which is, I mean, fair enough. Like, it's a
Yeah,
difficult question to answer.
definitely, because I know we're still there. You know, so it's a very difficult thing for a small group to recover from.
I mean, right now we've moved everything that isn't nailed down to a safe place. It's good. So, like, at least that's off my table. Like, I've just been taking a couple days, relaxing, doing that thing. Other than that, it's just finding a new income stream because we're going to need ISK. Wherever we go, we're going to need ISK. So,
I'm curious because you say you're gonna need ISK, and the reason that you need ISK in particular is because you do the small gang PvP thing, right? You go out, you fly your ships, and you have a significant chance. In fact, you're almost guaranteed to lose them on some of the drunk roams you guys go on. So, like, talk to us about the PvP that you get up to, apart from sovereignty defense and that sort of nonsense. Do you do anything else?
we do some structure bashing, that's fun when you're loaded. But other than that, just roams in general. The drunk roams, obviously, like chasing around P-Horde sometimes is kind of fun in Punishers.
So that's like how you keep things going, right? You keep being you. You
Yeah.
keep undocking, having fun, keeping the environment light. Don't talk, oh, we just got our ass kicked. You know, you keep the environment the way you had it. And you have an additional burden now that, well, we got to find ISK to pay these ships, but that will come in time, right? As long as you stay together.
Yeah.
So is the cure as a whole, do you guys still, you've sort of lost the pocket that you were all living together in, protecting together, but you're still separate alliances. So do you think that the cure itself is going to stay together and move as a unit, or are you all sort of like looking in different directions to find where you're going next?
I believe. Don't quote me on it, but I believe the other three alliances are reforming into a single alliance, and I think they're moving down south. I don't know.
Ooh.
Oh, jump right in. The water's great.
And by great, you mean extremely dangerous and covered with mutants.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, but it's fun. It's been really fun living down here, honestly.
Yeah, they'll be forming 70-man fleets in Euro time zone. I'm not 100% sure all the corps are going with them, but I know the major corps are reforming into that new alliance.
That is
But
awesome.
sounds like you're not going though.
Yeah, we like to stick around Minmatar space, so probably G-Dub or go back to Losec where we were really shining.
Okay.
I'm still sorry. I'm still hung up on the whole. You guys held Sov in a hostile region against a multi-thousand-man alliance for a year, and then you held part of that Sov for 3 weeks, like even fighting with Scourge Dot when they were still a thing, etc., etc. How was your fighting over Fozzie Sov go? Like, did other alliances just not? How did these fights develop? Is what I'm asking. Tell me a story of what a Sov fight looked like for you guys as you're a 15-man fleet going up against whatever is coming at you.
Well, Frat likes their caracols. And caracols die really easily to battleships and battlecruisers if they get a hold of them. So there was one fight in particular. I think Alec was there. But we had like 5 Geddons and some battlecruisers, and we completely wiped them out and then finished the Intosis War before they could reform.
Yeah, so I like Fozzie because it's the place where small gangs can really thrive, right? The mechanic of Fozzie really lends itself to small gang fighting. Like my group when we came out of faction warfare, Fozzie is pretty much faction warfare like 2.0, right? It's the same sort of mechanic, and you have such an advantage as the defender because the attacker has to come to you with not only a fleet to fight you, they have to come with the equipment to win the fight, which is the toasting ships, right? Most groups will come with a fleet and toasting ships as a side thing, usually alts, right? They'll come in, I don't know, Bifrost or something slippery to start toasting and then get away. The trick is if you can kill those toasting ships, they can't bring them back quickly, right? So you kind of like toss them out, and then you could fight whatever fleet they come to you with, and you could kind of strategize around that. Like, did you see that sort of thing playing out? Like, they're coming in caracals, they're going to come through this gate, and you can pin them down here, and then we just kill their toasting chips and we win, right?
Yep. That actually happened a lot where we just kept them in one system. Like, we'll give up a node here or there, but
Yeah, pin them in one,
pin them
like
in
bubble
one.
the gates, make sure they can't get out. Yeah, they'll take 1 or 2 nodes, but yeah, that kind of strategy really, that's why a small gang can survive a long time if you play those games right.
Yeah, it was mostly why we lost the eastern section of Scalding Pass was mostly attrition. It was the same 5 people showing up to Intosis every night for like 8 hours every night. It was getting a bit rough.
I feel you. I fought those wars, man, for months, and then you get drained. It's hard.
So the majority of this fighting that we're talking about, it happened before the change to Intosis that allowed Intosis ships to receive remote reps, right? So a lot of the fighting you guys did, you could like rock up. I remember you guys use Cinnable fleets to roll around. I think it was an EUTZ though, so maybe it wasn't your group in particular, but the rest of the Cure was using Cinnable fleets to just roll up, nuke an Intosis ship, and then go away. And there was nothing that could be done about it. Did you see a significant impact when that change went through to where Intosis ships could receive remote reps?
I don't remember them becoming any harder to alpha. They like the great thing about artillery ships is they just punch through whatever the hell you're shooting at. So
Exactly.
there's very few instances where an Intosis ship specific, like if they were bringing Drakes or something as Intosis ships, which they did, but we killed those too with the battleships because they're slow. But like a Nereus is a very common Intosis ship, and it's banking on shield recharge. You can punch through its shields and like with 2 Cinnaballs, something like that, and then it's done. So I don't know. They didn't. I don't think I remember them ever using logistics on their Intosis, like ever. I guess maybe the Conoco guys did, but they were using small reps on Executors.
Conoco, who are they?
They're a small group of people that talk shit horribly.
They're all the same person.
I think you could describe a lot of
They're-
us like that. I'm just throwing that out there.
They're basically one person. Like there's a couple extras, but for the most part, it's just the one guy named Nina and his many alts, and they're really easy to farm. So we did that.
Man, I
often.
can't believe that's so funny. We fought Conoco for years in faction warfare space.
Yeah, they were down over in Minmatar Losec for a while, trying to find a home over by P Horde at the entrance of Geminate. And my friends that are still over there curb stomped them, and then they came out to Knoll as a scourge pet.
Yeah,
and
I was
never
wondering.
left.
Like, I see them over there now. Like, I see they're taking some of that space, obviously. And
Yeah,
I was wondering what was that connection? How did they get hooked up with Scourge and Fraternity?
Scourge brought them in to defend their back line while we were fucking it up, basically, is what happened. We were hitting structures every night, and they couldn't do anything about it, and then they brought in Conoco to defend them. We had
That's
some
really
interesting brawls over that.
You can
It
say
very
what you
much.
want about Nina, but he's got connections. Or
It seems to me that a lot of what we're talking about here is that if you want the space bad enough, you can have it. That seems to be the way that this battle is being described, as like this entire year it wasn't that you were the most powerful group in the area. It wasn't that you could go and push out your neighbors. It was that your neighbors were trying to kick you out, but you wanted that space bad enough and you fought hard enough for it that you were able to keep them at bay, because Fozzie Sov is designed to let small groups do that. Is that an accurate description of the way things are going?
Yeah. Where there's a will, there's a way, I guess.
That is awesome. That is like exactly what Fozzie Sov aimed to do. Or I suppose we should technically call it Aegis Sov.
yeah, I'm telling you, at the smaller scale, I think Aegis plays out exactly the way it was intended. I think it's when you move up the scale that people start to criticize the mechanics. But at this lower scale, it's working exactly as intended, and is a good mechanic in my opinion.
I think that, the people that, I mean, you can be critical in the sense that there could be improvements. Sure. I think there can be improvements on everything, but the people who like are critical of the system don't remember Dominion, right? They just, it's just lost, into history or time or whatever, because that was the worst thing ever. Because, Sov in that system is watch the supers warp in, watch them ref your station, watch them leave. Like that was Sov right there.
Yeah, I remember that. Just massive amounts of carriers sitting on an iHub for hours.
Or just
Or
super fleets,
supers,
right?
yeah.
The super fleets were so oppressive. You would never be able to think about finding a group because you just roll their supers through and clear out in like a day or two.
Right. They can't do that with the Sov.
Yeah, I love it. Bring your
after-
supers to take my Sov. Please. I'll bubble them in one system and you won't be able to leave and I'll win. I love it.
Or you could play the Fraternity card and put up all your Sino Jammers, and suddenly they can't bring their supers. Let's talk about
I was
that
going
for
to
a
say
bit.
that.
How's that war going?
Our
Artemis,
war?
I'm trying to have a good night, and you bring up Sino Jammers. I mean, I'm in a good mood, and I'm trying to have a good night. I'm just saying, Sino Jammers hate fun. It's just that simple. They hate fun.
They're incredibly
Well,
broken, but they're also great for small groups. I'll say it
Yeah,
again.
I was going to say Sino Jammer really saved our ass for a long time. The reason Skill didn't snuff us out a long time ago was because we had R&M Sino Jammer.
Yep.
no,
It gives you so much control. Too much control, yes, but enough control where a small group could really thwart the forces of a bigger group because you can't come in here with your big ships. You're going to have to fight me on my level, at least for a little while. Like, hey, we won a huge fight against Snuff using Sino Jammers and just, hanging them up on the gate for 2 hours and made it so treacherous for them. Like, you have that kind of power. It's really cool. Broken, but cool.
okay, Ron. I know you're itching to talk about it. You've had some fights that you were like bursting at the seams to talk about before the show. Let's talk about them now. What happened? Gloat away. Let the smug flow freely.
No, no, no. So it wasn't. It's not as much gloating because, to be honest, so the fight that happened yesterday, so we outnumbered them 2-1, right? So we had 800 and they had 400. So winning, okay, no problem. But, I would say though that time zone tanking works both ways, right? So the same thing happens to us in their time zone. And it's, a victory, like hold up the flag. Oh, we're holding back test. It's time zone tanking and the Sino jammers, right? But then, you flip it around and now it's in, you're talking US time zone, let's party, right? So, that's where the fight came from yesterday. And yeah, we definitely outnumbered them and I would do it again. But just like in, when I have to alarm clock for something, at 5 a.m., and they outnumber us, I say rock on, man. In big alliances, in big sob warfare, there is no blobbing, right? You're in the big game, blob the hell out of us, right? If you can bring 500 onto us, bring it, 1,000, whatever, bring it. Because if you can't blob us, like who can you blob, right? Us, goons, like it's do it. So I say pull the stops out and let's have some fun.
We certainly did have some fun, but I have to ask though. I'm gonna ask this every single week until it starts happening. Are citadels dying? Is Sov changing hands, or is this still just like skirmishing on the border?
Okay, so that's actually a really funny question. So and if I didn't record it, like I wouldn't believe the story. So we had dropped some structures, right? So they dropped content structures on our stuff, and we dropped some on theirs. And so we were there, and we were protecting it, and they were bringing in, Sino scepters, lighting a Sino, and then just warping a single dread in, right? And just hitting this, and we were defending it. We had bubbles up everywhere, doing great. 9% health, right? 1% health, no joke, 1% health. And we're like, and it was like 2.5 minutes left on the repair. We're like, we got this, we got this. All of a sudden, boom. Wait, what? What? How did that blow up? There's no reds. An interceptor had accidentally targeted. I'm not even joking, dude. I'm not
A
even joking.
friendly
An
interceptor?
a friendly interceptor had it locked and shot it. I swear to God. So, and everybody just starts freaking out and they're like, Z kill, Z kill, Z kill. And we go and we look, and sure enough, it was
Where
it
is
was
this
a
kill
legacy
mail? I
member.
need to see this kill mail.
It's probably in Z kill somewhere.
What region was it in? I'll find it real quick.
It's in Dead Red.
It was like 046 or something. Let me see.
It
It
was in Dead Red.
it was
Looked at
rough,
that
but
yesterday.
like yeah, it was rough, but I think the funniest part was somebody said, "Hey, since we killed it, can it be on our part of the kill board?"
Yeah, just move it over to the enemy side for the death. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It
that was
was
yours, bro.
yeah, but we did save like a couple others, and and one of them was like right on their Keepstar grid, so of course they're gonna defend that as best they could, and they did great, man.
I mean, to answer your question, Artemis, we haven't swapped Sav at all yet, but because of the jammers, we have to do a little bit more beforehand. Like I think in the early part of the war, we tried to just shove in there traditional style, like you heard on the Sunday show, Pro God talk about, and that just didn't work, right? So we have to try something else, and it's a little more prep, a little more poking and prodding and setup in order to make that happen. It's
All
gonna have
right,
to be
well,
more of a grind, you know.
there are some other groups around Eve who are looking to actually just brute force their way through a region, and they've kicked it off with a bang. So, what we're referring to here is the Imperium. If you listen to the Sunday show, you'll know has decided to deploy up north and attack Tribute, which had been in the process of like structures were going down and stuff was being moved out, etc., etc. We talked about this on previous shows, so you can go check those out for more details. But what they did yesterday, and it is anchoring right now, is the Imperium has anchored a Keepstar, or is in the process of anchoring a Keepstar in Pureblind. In fact, on the connection between Pureblind and Tribute in the system of KQK. So this is right adjacent to Tribute, right adjacent to what was one of NC.'s staging systems in OTAC-Y. So this is a very strategically important location, especially for a Keepstar, which can house supers. In fact, the super capital jump range from KQK is roughly half of Tribute. Basically, everything even down towards almost gets to MTACO, if I recall correctly. So this is a massively important thing if it gets anchored, and as far as anybody can tell, it's probably just going to get anchored, right? Does anybody think this thing's going to die?
No, it's definitely getting anchored. Killer B was on the Chill podcast this morning. He's like, let me just, we're not going to fight this. Like, we can't fight this. So it'll be up.
Yeah, what's interesting about this is like last year's War 2.0, kind of, right? Because the Imperium stopped short of just about where they are now last summer, right? So they're just picking up where they burned the little bit that was there on the way up. In fact, some of my structures that were laying around there, I think, Oran, you were tethered to a fed up structure and Sisters of Eve space. Those are all remnants of last year's war. So they're just picking up right where they stopped the last time, which is pretty interesting.
Indeed. And in fact,
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is and I was talking about this last week when I was looking at the map. KQK is a very important system strategically because it's on a regional gate, right? So you jump to the regional gate, and then you take the gate to save that time and that jump fatigue, and then you end up at the other gate. Now, what's interesting about KQK is, so it's on one side, right, of a regional gate, and on the other side of the regional gate is the NC staging Keepstar. So it's right on the entrance to Tribute. So it's, to me personally, like, in my opinion, it is the biggest content structure ever dropped. That's the way I'm thinking about it. It's like they're just going to put down a structure. Let's see if you're going to fight, and if not, then you just surrender Tribute, right? So I mean, that's just my opinion, though.
Well,
Yeah.
you say that, but so Pureblind and Fade were the quote-unquote gains from the previous year for the Imperium, theoretically at least. Let's make that as an assumption. But if you look at Pureblind and Fade, sure there are some there are some Sov that belongs to Init, right, on the border of Cloud Ring, and if you look into Fade, there are also some Condi systems in here, or there were. They're gone now. It's actually Darkness now. When did this happen? When did freaking GOTG take back Fade?
A while ago, I think, but that's not really surprising. There was no one there. I mean,
yeah. So that's my point. Really, is that there's really there's no use for this space. They'll destroy the Sovereign Tribute. The Citadels are already gone. Maybe they'll get some fights out of this. But they don't have any renters to install. They don't have any buffer groups or pets to install there. They're not going to live there themselves. So they're just going to come in, grind a bunch of stuff, declare victory, go away, and then it's a matter of like what happened in Fade, where GOTG took Fade back, will NC come back and say, okay, we'll have Tribute back now? Is this going to be, my mind goes back to Stargate, where you have particularly Stargate Atlantis, where you have the Wraith, who they feed on humans to survive, right? That's their food. And so what they do is they let these communities of humans live, and then every once in a while they wake up from their sleep and they go on a massive feeding spree, kill a bunch of people, then go back to sleep, let the population rebuild. Is this what we're feeling like is happening now with Nullsec, where the Imperium is just letting other groups grow big enough, then they come in and feed, take a bunch of kill mills, declare victory, and go crab away and delve? Is that what's happening? No?
No, I don't think so at all. No, because Fade never recovered. GOTG may have their flags on that, but there is nothing going on there. Fade has been completely dead for like a year. Pureblind's sort of, because Pureblind wasn't burned out quite as bad, at least the southern part of it. So they had like groups like me and Snuff, and people moved in there and started doing things. But Fade never recovered. There is nothing there to even feed on. You just blow right through there and up, and you go up to Tribute. And unfortunately, I think if the same thing happens to Tribute as happened to Fade last year, same thing will happen. That land will just lay fallow back to wherever they burn it. But I don't think that they purposely are going back to the same region to feed on whoever moved back in. I don't think that's it at all. If they are, they're going to be disappointed because there's nothing there to kill.
Curious. All right, there is one other bit of sovereignty news that I wanted to discuss today, and that is related to some drama that happened last week. I believe Sort Dragon discussed it directly a little bit on the Sunday show, although I've only heard clips of it. I haven't listened to the entire thing. And that is Slice is no longer a part of what used to be Guardians of the Galaxy Coalition. Now they're under Deadco, but people still call them GOTG because this is Eve. They've moved into Ethereum Reach. So Slice, I'm not even gonna try and pronounce their like proper alliance name, has just taken a massive chunk out of the center of Ethereum Reach and said this is ours now. So looking through the kill boards, I haven't seen much of a fight happen over any of this sovereignty. So it seems like some sort of deal was struck, or at least there was a, hey, listen, we're a lot bigger alliance than you, so we're gonna take this. Fight if you want, but we're gonna win anyway. So save your kill boards, I guess. And the Sov seems to have been taken without much of a struggle. There may even be some deals in place that I am unaware of. But this is the new home of Slice. Okay, I'm going to actually try and say their name. Nope, never mind.
Yep. Interesting, last night, just, a simple talking in stations reporter out cruising around the KQK area. And, I'm one jump over and I look at the NC staging keep start, and what do I see tethered up right there? Slice.
Slice dudes,
Like,
yeah.
what?
I mean, I
So,
don't think
yeah,
that's a
so
surprise. You were surprised by that? I mean,
I was surprised that NC would just bloom like that, in a couple of days and take him in. But, I just was like, wow, that's interesting. So
So
there we
you
go.
think Slice
they
is
kind
moving into
of
Ethereum Reach is sort of like a friend of Northern Coalition to help them in their conflict over the Spire?
Yeah, so well, I don't know about any of the extras. I just know that, when we were talking to Killer B this morning, he's like, "Yeah, now we're just blue to slice." I was told that, and that's how we're gonna roll. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a logical place for them to go, right? Given the Team A, Team B line down New Eden, I think I wouldn't expect them. I would be very surprised to see them go somewhere else. Like, I don't think they'd go over the line. Who over the line would take them? But it is interesting for sure. I like that kind of stuff. See, Ron, you're out there now. You expose all this stuff with your camera. I love it.
Yeah, I need like a felt hat with like a little ticket in it.
Yeah,
Scoop.
I'm just pressed. I'm just pressed, guys. I'm just pressed. Can I have tether rights so I could just report, please?
Yeah, and I even renamed my little what not Atron but Aries, talking in stations, and like I'm cruising through going through gate camps, and I was telling you guys, I saw Carneros there because he's with Bastion gate camping, and it was hilarious there. But the sheer number, of people that are up for the goons right up there is staggering. I was watching their Keep Star at 6RC, and I see, a lot of Baltecs, right? Warping off. And then, I hear, oh, it's a Max CTA. Snuffed Out is like camping the X-Tac 7, kind of pipeline. So I go over there, and there's like, 3 fleets roaming around. And then, like half an hour later, it's like they've caught some caps. I go over, there's 2 apostles. Basically, there's 25, right, on one side of the kill board. On the other side of the kill board, 317. Like when I saw that, and and the scrolling you have to do down. I laughed. I swear to God, I laughed for 20 minutes. I was laughing so hard I couldn't even stand it. Like it was the scrolling. So many. And that's all the people that got on the kill mails. And I said, but there's 317. And they said, oh, well, the Baltec fleet couldn't get there fast enough because of tie-dye. God bless them.
Well,
Rock on, man.
yeah, well, that's very impressive. And your video of their move up was even more impressive. Like watching literally hundreds of Titans, hundreds and hundreds of supers and capital ships moving is quite impressive. This is going to lead up to like a World War B, though. Like, there's nothing the North can do against that kind of force. Like, they're just going to keep backing up, backing up. You're not going to get the fight that they're wanting, right? Like, how is this going to turn out? It's going to like be one big massive show of force, and the North sort of folding it, no?
They're going to bulldoze the areas, right? And then I think they're going to put keep stars in a chain. They're going to leave some people there in the north just to punish, whoever comes around for whatever reason, and then the rest, and then they're going to move south. They're going to go back home like 6 weeks from now. And I think Lady Scarlet kind of called it. Like they're just going to weather out the storm, and then the goons will go home, and then they'll figure out what they're going to do next.
Right. And there's a
All
part
right.
of me though that like aches over this, though. It's like, oh.
Well, that is what's going on in Eve right now. We have a small PvP alliance that held on to life in very strange circumstances down in Scalding Pass. It is now looking for a new home. Good luck to you guys. We have the fighting continuing going on in the south between Fraternity and Legacy, or I should say Winterco and Legacy, pardon me. And we have the Imperium setting up to bulldoze Tribute at the very least. Anything else that we should discuss before we hop into the end of things? All right.
Eve
Well,
Down Under
one
is
thing.
happening right now.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm honestly most excited about Eve Down Under, because the Eve Invasions patch happens in 5 days, guys. 5 days from now, Eve Invasions, this massive expansion that CCP's doing a whole market push on it. Like, if you want to make a new account, there's some sort of Steam deal going on right now where you get 7 days of Omega, 250k skill points, a bunch of other nonsense. Go check that out, by the way. But we have no dev blogs. Nothing. There's stuff on CC, but CC is like, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't, maybe things will change. We know nothing.
No, I love it.
Hopefully at
This is
Eve Down
perfect.
Under, we know
This
something.
is perfect. Keep up the mystery. All this shit that's been happening over the last couple of weeks on the NPC side, like the billboards getting hacked, the sob maps getting hacked, like all this crazy shit. I'm glad that it's a mystery, and then there's gonna be some sort of reveal, I hope, and we're all gonna be like, what the fuck, that kind of thing. I love it. Good job, CCP.
Yeah, and then 6 days. So the invasion patch is 5 days, and then 6 days from now, there's going to be like an entire stream event, right? For Stream Fleet, they're doing like 48 hours, and it's going to be a lot of fun as well. They're going to be giving away skins and all kinds of stuff.
I did not know that. Is there a name for this sort of event? I hadn't heard of it at all.
Oh, it might not be public knowledge, so there's that.
Ooh,
That's interesting.
dank
Thank
leaks
you
on
for that.
Talking and Station. Noise. All right, well, let's hop into some shoutouts then. Iniquitious, you got a shoutout for us today?
Just my guys, all of them. You know who they are.
Awesome. Silver, you got a shoutout for us?
I'm gonna give a shout out to Villy actually, because having him back has kicked up the gears of war so hard from this grind that we've been having. Suddenly this week we have plans and everybody's all psyched, so it's been really cool to have him back and active. And if you want to be part of it, Fed Up is recruiting.
Ron, now that you've recovered from your dank leaks, you got any shoutouts for us?
My shout out is to all of the people out there in nullsec that I'm flying by, and they all say hi, and they all like love the show, and and all this, no matter what team they're on. I love that. I think that's awesome. So, thanks for being so supportive of doing this kind of stuff. I love it.
Awesome. Well, my shout goes to all the dudes who are organizing Eve Down Under. As I understand it, the whole Eve Invasion tour has been a bit of a headache for some of the groups who are doing the individualized stuff. And I know one of my old Noir bros, Arcantantrix, is, I believe his official title is General Manager on the Eve Down Under team. So shout out to him and all the other dudes who are putting on Eve Down Under. Apparently, it's a great time. People are enjoying Sydney. I had intended to raid the Eve Down Under stream, but CCP Hilmar's talk literally just ended. I'm watching the stream up on my other monitor right now, and it went to a splash screen now. So I'm gonna raid it, and you guys can hang out and chat because in about 15 minutes the Eve keynote is happening. So if anything, if we get any major announcements, any info on the Eve, pardon me, on the Eve Invasions uh, expansion that's happening in 5 days. Hopefully, it will be happening then. So that'll do it for this episode of Talking in Stations, Season 2, Episode 14. Go enjoy Eve Down Under. In like 5 seconds, because Twitch is doing a thing.